What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. So today's video topic was actually brought up by one of you guys on my Twitter. I put out a tweet asking if you guys had anything you guys wanted me to talk about, and this was actually one of the topics that you guys suggested. It's always really fun for me to do videos that you guys have requested because I know that it's something that you guys are interested in. So if you want to hit me up on Twitter, on Instagram, here in the comments, wherever, and just give me video ideas, obviously it helps me out because it gives me content, and then hopefully it helps you out because I'm able to answer a question that you might have. So this question comes from Tim Lynn Shoten. I probably didn't say that right, but he wanted to know calculated meal plan versus if it fits your macros versus just staying inside your calories, no matter what you eat. Very interested in your view on all three options. Just to keep things simple, I want to talk about all three of these diets in terms of just strictly trying to lose weight. I'm assuming that's probably what you meant anyways, but that's where I'm going to be looking at these different diets from. And another disclaimer, this is obviously just my opinion. This is my views through my own eyes, what I've seen work, what has helped me. So understand that some of the pros that I think might be good for diets and some of the cons might be literally the exact opposite for you, but just know this is my opinion through my eyes. Your opinion might be completely different on these diets. So I think the best way to look at these diets is to talk about the pros and then also talk about the cons on each of the diets, because I do think that all three of the diets have both pros and cons. So the first diet was a calculated meal plan. And I think it's important that he said calculated, because that means it's a meal plan that has obviously been calculated for you. It's going to be, specified for your needs. It's going to be the right amount of calories for you to lose weight. When it comes to a calculated meal plans, obviously the pros are that if you eat what has been told to you by your coach, whatever, if it's 6 ounces of chicken with broccoli and rice and that's 3 meals out of the day, in your head, if I eat this, I will lose weight, or I will be able to, chase my goals and I will be able to make progress. That's definitely a huge pro of that, is just that peace of mind. Another pro is that you don't have to think too much, you just do what you're told, and that can be really helpful for people that might overthink when it comes to dieting and overthink about things, so you don't have to deal with that. You just do what you're told and you know that it will work. Another pro, this is gonna kind of depend on person to person, but most of the time if you do have a meal plan, hopefully you are working with some sort of coach, someone that you can talk to if you have any questions, so you'll have that resource as well. So that's definitely gonna be a pro. If you feel like you're not eating enough or you wanna eat maybe a little bit less, you can talk to that person that has calculated the meal plan for you, and they can kind of give you some guided direction in that question. Another pro is hopefully if the meal plan is good, you are hitting all of the right macronutrients, you're hitting all of your micronutrients, you're getting everything that your body needs, you're not overindulging on certain things. If the meal plan has been written correctly, it's hopefully going to give you very good results, but you just have to stick to that meal plan. So the cons with this diet, the first one is going to be that it's pretty hard to stick to, especially if your meal plan is pretty restrictive. It's really hard to just eat the same food over and over and over again, unless you're somebody that likes that. But it can be very, very difficult for people to stick to those meal plans, and the guilt that you kind of deal with when maybe you deviate a little bit is really high. So definitely just adherence is really difficult when you're sticking to a very strict meal plan. And then another con, this is an obvious one, is just your variety of food. You probably on a meal plan are not eating completely different things all the time. It's probably gonna be pretty similar throughout the week. So that can definitely be a con for a lot of people. The third con, I think, is probably the most important one, is that it doesn't teach you enough about dieting and about nutrition when you're just following the meal plan. So that can definitely be a con. Now, obviously this is person to person. If you are following a meal plan, but you have told yourself that you're going to learn more about nutrition, you're gonna understand why you're losing weight on this meal plan, why those certain foods are helping you lose weight, then it can be a pro. But for a lot of people, they don't decide to learn, they don't take the initiative to understand why this meal plan is working, how many calories they're actually eating, what their macros are on this meal plan that they're following. So they end up just following the meal plan, having results, and then once they get off the meal plan, they gain the weight again. So that can be a huge con with these meal plans. Now this last con kind of goes hand in hand with one of the pros, but if you're working with somebody that maybe isn't the most qualified or isn't working with you, giving you enough feedback, you can end up maybe really under eating on these meal plans. I've seen that happen a lot. So you have to be very specific and be very smart about who you choose to make that meal plan for you. Okay, so these next two diets are actually really similar to each other as compared to the first one when it comes to a calculated meal plan. But the first thing we're gonna talk about is if it fits your macros. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard about this diet. So what IIF1AM is, or if it fits your macros, is basically you are tracking your protein, your carbs, and your fats, and some people track fiber as well. And that is how you determine how many calories you're eating, is by those 3 macronutrients, maybe the 4th one with fiber, and that's kind of how you make up your meal plan. Now the first pro is the most obvious one. This is the one that people talk about a lot, especially a lot of people that have come from those meal plans, is it gives you freedom. You're able to eat whatever you want as long as it fits within those macronutrient goals. And for a lot of people, especially if you've been doing those meal plans for a really long time, it's really freeing to feel like you have that freedom in eating kind of whatever you want. Another huge pro is just how precise you can be with your macros and with tracking them and with adjusting them. Say you want to eat 5 grams more of carbs, you can do that and you can figure out what will fit inside those macronutrient goals for yourself. Another pro is that adherence can actually be pretty high with this meal plan. Now obviously everybody is different, but having that freedom, it's a lot easier for people to be like, oh, I can actually have, you know, a piece of candy every once in a while as long as I fit it inside those macronutrient goals. The next pro is that it can help a lot of people that are struggling with their relationship with food. It can really, like, especially the people that feel like if I eat a cupcake, I have completely ruined all my goals, I will never be able to lose weight, like this is the end of my life, you know. It shows people like, oh, if I find out how many calories are in this cupcake, what the carbs, fats, and protein are, it's actually really not that crazy, you know. It was only, let's say, 300 calories or whatever it might be, right? You realize that one food isn't going to be the end all be all to your diet. And again, it gives you that freedom, and again, it gives you that confidence to continue with the diet. And what I think is probably the biggest pro when it comes to learning how to track your macros is I feel like it actually really is a skill that you can, once you get that, it's something that you will have for the rest of your life. Like for me personally, right now I'm not tracking everything to the gram, but I know when I look at plates of food or when I look at things, I can kind of, it's not perfect, but I can kind of see how many calories are gonna be in that, you know, what the general range of the macros are, and that has really helped me in my journey of just being able to not feel like I need to track every single ounce. For a lot of people, you know, do that for 3 months, track every single ounce of everything, because you will have that information that you learned, that knowledge, and that will become a skill that you'll have for the rest of your life. So moving on to the cons of if it fits your macros, the main one is probably that people will abuse that power. And a lot of people have noticed this, right? A lot of people will start eating pretty well, and then they realize I can just pretty much eat junk food as long as I make it fit my macros, and that's just not a healthy way to look at it. So that's definitely a huge con, is like people will abuse that power. Another con is that it can be pretty confusing, especially if you're coming from nothing, you have never tracked your food, you never tracked your calories, you've never been on a meal plan. If you go from just the typical Western diet to trying to track every macro that you eat, it can be really daunting. So the learning curve for this diet is pretty high, but I always tell people just push through those first few months. It's hard at first, but it really does get easier. But for a lot of people, they don't want to push through those first few months, and they don't. So they try and track their macros, doesn't work out, and then they just feel like it's too hard of a diet to learn how to do. So another con is actually related to one of the pros, how I talked about how you can be very specific to the gram. The con of that is that you can become overly obsessed with tracking everything. I've always said, like, it's good to learn how to track, it's good to get that skill, but it's not something that you want to do for the rest of your life. And people get caught in this track of feeling like they need to track every ounce, every gram of everything they're eating for the rest of your life. And I personally don't think that that's a good thing to fall into, and a lot of people do. So this definitely can be a con with this diet. Okay, so let's move on to just strictly counting your calories. Now, this is very similar to if it fits your macros. I like to think of calorie counting as like a beginning step, and then if you want to go advanced, you can do if it fits your macros. But let's talk about the pros and cons of just strictly calorie counting. So a lot of the pros and cons are going to be similar with if it fits your macros, but the first pro is obviously you're able to be flexible with your diet as long as you're tracking the calories, making sure you're under that calorie number that you need to be for the day to lose weight. You can pretty much eat whatever you want. Another pro is that it is a little bit easier to start than just going straight into tracking your macros. So the learning curve is not as high, it's a little bit easier to get into, so that can definitely be a pro with calorie counting over if it fits your macros. And then again, another pro is that it is a skill. So it's a skill that you learn how to, how many calories might be in certain dishes. So it just makes dieting easier, and it makes life a little bit easier. If you have kind of a messed up relationship with food, you're able to look at dishes and be like, okay, I know how many calories are probably in the range, give or take a few hundred, and that can be really beneficial for people that are dieting. Another pro with this over if it fits your macros, you don't have to stress with as much stuff. So you're actually able to be a little bit more flexible, I feel like, when you are just tracking your calories. And when it comes to the cons, the first con is obviously you're not able to be as precise and as specific as you could be if you were, if you were tracking your macros. So that's definitely a little bit of a con when it comes to just tracking your calories. Now this next con is something that I forgot to mention when I was talking about if it's your macros, but it applies to just tracking your calories as well. But with these diets, a lot of times people don't have coaches that they're working with. They don't have people that they can kind of lean on and have questions for. So if you're just doing it yourself, that can definitely be a con as far as like not having a coach to talk to, not having someone to talk to. Now I do realize that you can totally be working with someone that is a macro coach, and you could totally be working with someone that isn't, just coaching you on how to track your calories. That's what I do. But a lot of people that are just tracking their calories are not being coached. Another con, this is shared with If It Fits Your Macros as well, but that it's easy to overestimate or underestimate your calories or your macros. So it can be, for some people actually, it can be a little bit harder to track and a little bit harder to stay on track because they've never done it before. But I definitely do believe that if you do get the skills and you do it for a while, you can become better at, again, it's a skill, right? So the more you do it, the better you can get at it. But definitely when you're first starting, you might not realize to track all the butter you're using, or you're not tracking every single little thing. It's very, very important that you're tracking everything. A lot of people are actually underestimating how much food they're eating, and they wonder why they're not losing weight, but it's because they're not tracking correctly and they're actually eating a lot more food than they are realizing. And the last con with calorie counting, again, it shares this with If It Fits Your Macros, is that you can become obsessive about counting your calories, and you can become that person that feels like they need to weigh everything out, or if they're not able to count what they're eating, they might not just eat. So that definitely can be a con when it comes to tracking your calories. So there you guys go. That is my thoughts on these 3 diets. I want to make it very clear. Again, these are my opinions after working with people, myself included, of what I think about these diets. They're all completely fine choices. They're all great diets. They will all give you results if you stick to them. Some people see a lot of results with, having a meal plan, working with the coach, and just sticking with that. That is completely fine. Some people find a lot of results with, If It Fits Your Macros, tracking their macros for a long time and learning how to do that. Some people just stick to calorie counting. They don't even stress about their macros. They just think, okay, I just need to count my calories. That's the most important thing. And that's completely fine as well. The reason I wanted to make this video was to just give you the information, and you can do whatever you want with this information. But with videos like this, I always love to hear what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you follow a meal plan right now? Are you tracking your macros? Are you just tracking your calories? I would love to hear what you guys think about all 3 of the diets. I want to always have conversation down in the comment section down below. I do want to say thank you for the question. I really appreciate it, man. Again, if you have any topics or any video ideas you want me to do, put those down in the comment section. Hit me up on Twitter, whatever it is that you want to do. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. There was one other thing that I wanted to say. Oh yeah, look how buff I am.
Obey the warning signs, and when there are flashing lights or wigwags, don't attempt to cross until they come to a complete stop.